So firstly, I just want to say thank you to MFA for giving me this opportunity to be able to discuss more than talk about what we do here in the US. Like I said before, I saw some familiar faces and there's coaches on this meeting. Someone's got their camera. Okay, thank you. There are coaches and past teammates of mine on this meeting, so it's a special moment for me to be able to do this. So I thank you for this opportunity, and it's just going to be a discussion mostly about how we run, how soccer is run in the US. Kiftafo, as you guys know, I spent the majority of my playing career and coaching career in Malta. So coming to the US in February 2018 was a massive culture shock. Culture shock in the way they do things, the mentality, and obviously the biggest culture shock was the distances we needed to travel, or we needed to go and meet other teams and so forth, because obviously the US is a very big place. Obviously we're all broken down into conferences. The conference Tana, our conference here, the Southwest, involves us, which is Nevada, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Arizona, and California, and the southern part of California, where San Diego, Los Angeles, or Postiet Paldalk. So it was a massive culture shock in the first place. So one thing I needed to do before getting part of this was get into the coach education system in the US. And the one thing I did, and I hope this works, is I went and did a US A license. Even though I had done my pro license and my UEFA Youth A license while I was working with the MFA, I decided to make it a good idea and jump on the US soccer coaching ladder. So I was promoted because of the pro to the National Youth A coaching license. It was a 1-year course, travel, obviously, online courses. For me, it was absolutely fantastic because I got to see how the US culture really works. It gave me an opportunity to network, and I got to meet a lot of new coaches, a lot of people that work from US soccer. So for me, being able to do this license opened up a lot of doors, not only for me personally, but obviously for our club. And it was a big eye-opener into how US soccer really works. So that was the first step I took and the first decision I took when I first came here. As you can imagine, my wife wasn't very happy because we started a new country, kids were starting school, and I wanted to go back to school myself. So at first, it wasn't easy, but we made it work. So it was fantastic. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do at Albion, our mission and vision. And mission and vision for us was very important. I know there's a lot of clubs that go and should have a mission and vision. I think it's very, very important that as a club you lead that way. So as a leader of a club, I had the chance to sit down with Albion San Diego, who are our main people, and we all got a mission and vision together. And the mission in Las Vegas is to develop, and Albion in general is to develop successful, well-rounded athletes. It's not just about making the footballer, or what they call it here, the soccer player, but just to make the person holistic. The vision of the club was very simple. We wanted to be one of the best in Nevada. Create pathways, because that's very, very important for us. When we say pathways, the college game is very big in the US. So we had to open up the college pathway and not only the pro pathway, because not everyone obviously is going to become pro. Saying that, Albion Las Vegas, in the last 4 or 5 years we've been here, we've been successful in making that happen. So, everything, we want the kids to know that everything they learn about being successful in life, they try to learn through Albion and our coaches. The ethos is very important for us as well. And the ethos is something new to me. While I was coaching in Malta, I never heard of an ethos. And I've worked at some clubs. The fact that we believe in each other, we believe in character above all else. We believe in failure as part of sports and life. And I think teaching the kids how to be that is very important. We believe in excellence and habit. So all this ethos has to be taken on board, not just by our coaches, but it's also an educational aspect we've given to our families as well. And we'll get to the numbers in a minute, because as you can imagine, there are big numbers here in the US. There's a lot of kids. So we believe in doing the little things right before you can take on the big things. And as a club, and as soccer in the US, they really believe in taking those small steps before becoming the big one. And obviously, organizational philosophy is important, because as you all know, Al Hafna Minkom, you've been in the game long enough to probably teach me all this stuff. But I've learned that in such a big environment, you must be organized. If you're not organized, we have a massive problem. Like I said before, the US isn't small. Being able to connect with all your coaches, all your families, all the other teams in the other leagues is important. And to be able to do that, you've got to be organized. So that's just a little bit about how we work at Albion, about our ethos and organizational. But culture in the US, most clubs do work in this type of way. Otherwise, you won't be able to work successfully, I guess. So we obviously believe in our core values, and this is something very normal, and I think all the clubs around the world, not just in the US, believe in core values. The respect and accountability for us is number one. Respecting each other, respecting the kids, respecting the families, respecting the culture in itself as a club. Social responsibility. It's not just about the game of soccer or stroke football. It's about how can we make these kids or these families being active within our community. And that is very big in the US. As you probably all know, sports in the US is very big. And I'll give you a little story where when my kids started school here, Zach, my oldest boy, went to a high school and started playing American football for his high school. And I remember he came up to me and said, "Dad, you coming to my game?" I said, "Yeah, for sure." In a Friday night high school game, there was over 5,000 people. It was incredible. The atmosphere, the schools promote for sports, the sporting culture is incredible. So socially, that was very, very important for us. So even as a club, over time, kids might not remember what we teach them on the field of play, but they will always remember how we made them feel. Making kids, people in general, feel happy and satisfied, and it's a big part of the way things are run here in the US. So yeah, sports and core values are very, very important. Hafna importanti. Just to give you a little breakdown of the club history, and I'm not going to go too much detail of this. Albion Las Vegas was formed in 2017 with 3 clubs. Today, Albion we've got over 1,700 soccer families, and that's a lot of people to manage, I guess. So as you can see, we have a lot of growth. And the big thing in the US is soccer for girls. As you can see in my slide here, we have a mix gender of about 50-50. We have 50% boys, 50% girls. And the girls program is very, very big. So we take it very seriously, and it's very, very important. In this particular slide, Albion is not just about Albion Las Vegas. Albion has 14 affiliates from San Diego to Hawaii, and we just included Nashville and Riverside. So it's a very big community, and people often ask me, how does this work? Throughout all these clubs, we're talking about 10,000 kids and multiple numbers of coaches and families. So the managing side of all this is become a challenge. Albion San Diego, who you can see on my top left, is the mother club, as you can call it. They do a fantastic job in getting all our clubs together. Us technical directors from each club get together once a month, sometimes once every second month, just to discuss ideas. We also have an Albion Nation project, which means we pick the 3-4 best players from each age group, boys and girls, from each nation, and we collect them for training camps. We have one in June, actually, in San Diego. So that's become very good. It gives us an opportunity not only to meet other coaches and other players, but it gives our kids a fantastic opportunity to meet other children from outside their own club. We borrow players from each other in self-formed players. So, for example, Zach, my son, who's a 2005, plays for Albion San Diego, and he's played for Albion Hawaii. So thanks to soccer or football, we got to see a lot of the US. So that's been very beneficial. So as you can see, the culture in the US is a lot about sports. Yes, it does get expensive sometimes, obviously, with flying and traveling, because there are distances involved. But I'll get to that, what we do with fundraising and helping families raise the money for them to be able to travel. But I do, it's incredible how parents will do anything to see their kids successful and help them through this pathway. So it's been a fantastic journey when it comes to Albion. The leagues. Albion at the moment play in 4 or 5 different platforms, stroke leagues. The boys, who are on the left side, play MLS Next and Elite Academy. Obviously, the one in the middle is the Nevada Youth Soccer Association, which is the local league. And then the girls, we have the Girls Academy, which is the top league, and then what they call the Development League, which is the second league to the Girls League. The MLS Next is comprised of 133 clubs throughout the US. We were fortunate enough, Albion Las Vegas, to be part of this MLS Next. Last season, 21-22, we started with 2 age groups, U13, U14. Season 22-23, we will start with 3 age groups, U13, U14, and U16. Very challenging league. We play in the Southwest Conference, which includes all the teams from California, and we have 1-2 teams from Arizona. It's been a fantastic league where you have to travel every second, third week. You have home and away, just like a normal proper league. The Elite League for the boys, the Elite Academy League, is the second tier to what we do with the MLS. We use it as a stepping stone towards the MLS leagues. Our older age groups, we have 3 age groups in that playing in playoffs in Dallas next month in June. And these 2 leagues combined has helped with the platform process being scouted. Obviously, through the MLS, you get a lot of the MLS clubs. We had boys go to Houston Dynamos for tryouts. We've had boys go to RSL for tryouts. We play in the same league as LA Galaxy and LAFC. So these boys are continuously being monitored by these top clubs. And with the elite league, you get more of the college coaches who go and watch these boys play. But like I said before, the college system is very, very big in the US. The same on the girls' side. The girls is very, very big. The Girls Academy League is the top league when it comes to girls soccer in the US. It's a big, big emphasis on college. A lot of college coaches watch their games on a regular basis. And the Development Player League just helps those girls become better players and get promoted to the Girls Academy. Nevada Youth Soccer we use it for mostly our third tier teams who play local. But we also have what we call a state cup, the best team in the state. Each age group play against each other. So there's multiple leagues and platforms where these boys and girls are regularly playing and being showcased in front of college coaches and scouts from various clubs. The other big thing here in the US, which was a culture shock for me, was the amount of tournaments they love to play. In fact, we have our Memorial Day tournament coming up this weekend. A tournament in Nevada can host up to 700-800 teams in a weekend. It's a lot of volume coming towards our. It's obviously a money-making project for a lot of clubs, and it does bring in a good income. I have my doubts on tournament soccer sometimes, but the parents love it. It is part of the culture in the US, where over a 3-4 day period, the boys and the girls get to play 4 or 5 games. So it was a culture shock at first. I'm not saying that I've never been to tournaments before, but they are pretty hectic and they are pretty big. And like I said, over the period of 3-4 days, you could get up to 700 teams, which is a lot of teams. I actually feel sorry for the referees because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, especially at this time of year as the weather gets hot. We live in the middle of the desert, so it does get pretty hot out here. So that's just about our leagues and platforms. There are a lot, but they are challenging, and we try to help the kids and the families as much as we can in performing. More about the coaching tasks. We go through this process with our coaches, and we try to emphasize as much as we can, especially with our elite teams on the MLS side, and also together with our Girls Academy coaches. Obviously, with teams that play local, a lot of the kids and just want to play to have fun. So we probably won't go into so much detail. But with our top teams, we expect our coaches to be leaders, and that is part of the culture here. How do they lead the team? That's very, very important for us as well. And I think the biggest one here is the team communication. Communication in general is always big, but being able to communicate clearly in such a big environment is a must. Because I'll just give you an example. If you have to travel 1 hour to get to training and training is cancelled because you haven't communicated with the parent, we're going to have problems. And I understand that. Obviously, to communicate nowadays, our club has its own app. So everything is done through the app. Every team is logged in through the app. So all the communication is done through there. Also, as a leader, we obviously, being a role model is very, very important. And that is, I take that very seriously. How you react to the public, simple things of your uniform. We supply coaches' uniforms, so that's very, very important. The lessons, the training, and I think all our coaches here on this chat are all know how and what to do when it comes to doing your training methods. Leading the player, the individual development plan meetings. I think that's very, very important as well. That comes with communicating, being able to communicate. The tactical and functional roles of the team. And then we go down again to college placements. College placements are very, very important. The way we communicate with colleges is very, very important for those kids. And I'll get to the pathway in a minute because I have another slide where it shows our pyramid as an Albion nation and what we do. But that is a very, very big part of the culture. And everything else we speak about on a regular basis in all courses, obviously system, styles of play, periodization plans, or Paldau, things like this, we speak about on a regular basis. The one thing I took from my courses here in the US, and the little things is the training objectives, the W's. And the W's for me were very, very, very important. It made me look at training on a different, and a game at a different angle. And just simple things like the what, the where, the when, the who, and the why. So taking these W's into consideration made you, as a coach, see the game differently, see the training session differently, see the players differently. And I think US soccer, through their coaching education and having these coaches talk the same language, has become fun, has become good, and it's become easier to see the actual game. So implementing that to the culture here in the US has been very, very good. So feel free to throw questions out anytime, guys. I just don't want to keep talking for the sake of talking. The development pathway within Albion, and when I say Albion, is like that 14 affiliates. We believe in doing the little things right before we can take the big things. And as you can see, we have an Albion Juniors recreational program, which I'll talk about in detail as well. We have our development academies. We have our development pathways, which lead to elite international pathways. We've had a boy who went over to Spain and is a 2001. Who's been very good. We've got boys within the Albion nation who go and play in our Albion San Diego pro team. They're in the third tier of US soccer. It's called NISA, but they're on pro contracts. So we try to get our players in there. I think one of the biggest things I learned in the culture in US soccer is having the boys program and the girls programs run on the same lines. Girls soccer is so important here in the US, and I can't emphasize that enough. I was fortunate enough to go and coach girls for nearly 2 years since I've been here. At first, it was something I'm like, this is new to me, but I really enjoyed the challenge. I did U15, U16 girls. We played in the academy pathway, and it was fantastic. The amount of college exposure these girls got and the amount of exposure I got as a coach was absolutely brilliant. So the girls program is very, very important, very important. And as you know, the US girls national team has won various amount of World Cups, even though the Europeans are now catching up, but it is very, very important. And as a club, we want to produce players who can play professionally and nationally and in the college game. MLS are becoming very close now to college programs as well. So there are boys and girls, especially boys obviously through the MLS, who are late developers and go through the college pathway. There are boys that go directly into the academy pathway, but there are boys that go straight through the college pathway, meaning they probably won't get an MLS contract till they're 21, 22. Where there are other boys who might get a college MLS pathway at the ages of 16, 17. We had a boy last year who we were successful in passing on to Colorado Rapids in the MLS. He was an 07, so he was U15, very good player, and he's now playing with the U17 at Colorado. So he and his family sat down. I sat down with them, and they opted for the academy pathway instead of the college pathway. And it's been a fantastic ride. Obviously, through the academy pathway, they still get their schooling, so it was a win-win basically for his parents. These Albion juniors at the bottom of the pyramid is very, very important for us. I love this atmosphere. This is something I've never experienced before. We're talking about 1,000 kids, boys and girls, in this program. We have different locations. As you can imagine, Nevada is a pretty big place. The place I live in, Henderson, just to give you an idea, is as big as Malta. And that's just one location we have teams training in. In this particular location in Henderson, we have 2 of our training fields, and then we've got another 2 on the other side of Nevada, and that way we can accommodate with all the families being able to travel. So Albion Juniors, we don't run it through the whole season. Albion Juniors runs through the autumn. In America, they call it the fall, which is from October to about December for 8 weeks. They have a little break in Christmas, and then they start again in the spring. So we're talking February, March, all the way to April, May. This is a program where we mix boys and girls together. We have the hot dog stands, we have the coffee stands, the donut stands, and it's a fun day where all these kids play against each other. No refereeing, no coaching. 4v4s, small goals, no goalkeepers. And as you can see from U3, where we have little toddlers come out and just kick a ball. There's nothing involved. But then it goes up to U11. From this program, we've managed to build and get teams into our competitive program. But some kids don't want to go competitive, so they stay in the juniors program and just want to have fun and in the rec program. So it's a very big part of the US culture, the juniors program, where kids just come and play soccer for fun. And I think this is one thing the US have done very well, and why US soccer now has become the 3rd or the 4th biggest sport in the US. You have NFL, which is American football, which is very, very big. You have NBA, which is obviously the basketball, and MLS is now competing highly with baseball and becoming a popular sport. Soccer actually overtook ice hockey, which is very, very big in the US as well. So the culture here in the US is that soccer is a very fast-growing sport. We have crowds at the MLS games. We had Seattle play. They won the Champions League of CONCACAF, where they had 70,000 people in their stadium. I've been fortunate enough to go and watch LAFC and Galaxy and RSL play on a number of times, where they have 20, 30,000 at each game. So the culture of the game here is growing tremendously, and it all starts from these junior programs we've got set up throughout not only the Nevada but throughout the nation. So it's very important, and we see a lot of kids playing the game at school. High school soccer, for example, has become very popular. I don't agree with some of the things they do, and we've been talking that, and I've trying to communicate with some school coaches to see how we can make that a better place for these kids. But making them love the game is, I think, one thing the Americans are doing very, very well, and it's growing tremendously. So that's just the pathway how we work. I think the teaching philosophy, the role of the coach is very, very important. If you love the game as a coach, and this goes everywhere, you don't have to be in the States, you get the kids to love the game. if you become so fixed about results, and there are people here that are fixed about results, especially parents, they just want to win, 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 which is great. We all want to win because we're all born winners. We've just got to make sure we do it properly. Okay, if there's any questions, how can I hear the questions? Do you want to throw me the questions?
Wayne?
Yes.
Wayne, this is Carlos.
Hey, Carlos, nice to see you.
Same here. It's great to see you again after such a long time. A quick question. Now that you've coached on both sides of the pond, could you mention two matters or two issues how you can transfer your experience coaching in the States, give the information to us and say, how can we improve the game locally through your experience, always bearing in mind the context and the size of our country? Thank you.
I think that's a great question, Carlos. I think one of the key factors that I just mentioned in my last slide is the kids must love the game. I think, unfortunately, in today's world, we get a lot of interference with parents, which isn't easy. And parent education is one of the key factors that we need to work on. From my experience in coaching in Malta here is that we have a lot of technical ability, technical players in Malta, when maybe in the US we don't have as much. But the one thing they do here is they love the game. They love the sports. They're all athletics. They all want to work hard. And I think having that passion to learn is fundamental. And this is why I go to the role of the coach. You've got to be passionate yourself as a coach in being able to teach, being able to be flexible, which is very important, and being able to learn yourself, be student of the game. So you're continuously challenging not only yourself, but these children. And that's no matter where you coach in the world, US, Malta, wherever. But the two major differences are, from what I saw, is that kids in the US love sport. And that's a big help. I don't know if I answered your question, but thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Wayne.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, Wayne.
Hi.
How are you? I'm Graham.
Hi, nice
Graham
to meet
Wina
you.
from Malta. I just want to ask you a question. When you were just saying about the ladies game, when they said you should go to take on the girls as a coach, how do you feel, and what type of training and method of training you give to them, different from the boys and the girls?
That's a great question, because at first I was shocked how I'm going to take this challenge on. And at first, as coaches, we say, oh yeah, it's the game, we can coach it the same way. But with girls, it was a little bit more. The one thing I did learn, that the girls had more energy in training. Maybe not as much talent, but a lot more energy. But you also got to remember that girls go through different cycles, unlike boys. So I had to take that into consideration. So I had to go through the learning process. I had to read quite a bit of how I have to deal with girls, not only from a soccer point of view, but even from a social point of view. Because girls do like to chatter a little bit more than the boys. So I had to learn how to take that on. I had to learn how to communicate more with their actual parent as well, about when should I emphasize on intensity and when not, if you know what I mean. Because like I said, girls go through cycles.
Cycles, yes. Yeah.
So I had to do my own periodization plan within the team for individuals. So that was a challenge, where on day one, where I'm working a little bit more intensity, a particular girl wasn't feeling the best because of her cycle. I would have to lower her intensity or her game time, or her, just to not to get in that red zone to get her injured. So I'm not the sports science guy as much as I should be probably, but I had to do a lot of reading and research on how to deal with that. But most of it was communicating with the parents.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions?
Mr. Wayne.
Yes.
Coach Alex here. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Alex. Thank you.
I would like to know, since I have some friends that they were playing football in US when they were younger, obviously. I would like to know the power of the parents on and off the pitch. What is the difference, since you have experience, like Coach Carlos mentioned earlier, both in Malta and US? Thank you.
I think parents all around the world are becoming difficult, to be honest with you. We all think we have Messi. And I think the best example I've had here at the club is I try to meet parents on a regular basis, because parents do have a lot of power over coaches. And I understand coaches are individuals and try to please everybody, but unfortunately it's difficult to please everybody. So what I had to do is, I'm a parent. I have 2 sons at the club. But the first thing I did was not coach my own kids. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. And in the US culture, I found that a lot of coaching were coaching teams where their own kids are involved. So that's one thing I had to stop at the club. And it wasn't easy at first. Explaining to the parents why we do certain things. It goes back to communication. As time has gone on, we have lessened the parents' involvement when it comes to actual teams. The problem I've found here is, obviously, I think in Malta probably the same, is that the younger the kids, the more involvement by the parent, which I understand because they are still young kids. But what we're trying to get to the parent is, let your kid enjoy the game. Your kid is not going to college at the age of 10, 11, 12. Let them, because if you press the kid so much at 10, 11, 12, he's not even going to make it to college, because at 16, he's going to tell you, Dad, I'm tired. I don't want to play anymore. You bug me. So it hasn't been easy. I'm doing a lot of, I have actually another meeting with parents of a U12 team tomorrow, where I'm emphasizing on this. So educating the parent has become a priority for me as a director before actually educating my coaches, if you know what I mean. Because the parent plays a major part on the kid's development. So that's a great question, because the parent does play a major part. I hope I answered the question right. Any other questions? I like the questions. Any other questions?
Hi, Wayne. I'm Glenn Berry.
Hi, Glenn.
Before you mentioned that you organize a lot of tournaments and with a lot of teams, are the tournaments competitive, or are they just fun tournaments? Because in Malta, when I was young, we used to compete. I mean, at the end of the day, you're competing to have fun. And I believe that the most important aspect with children is not to win the game, but to make them learn. But when I was young, we used to compete. We used to go to a tournament, and there's always a winner and there are losers. Everybody used to be given a medal, but the first team used to be given a trophy. Nowadays, it no longer happens. And what I am noticing is that most of the children sort of don't care less anymore if they lose the game. Like, they don't care if once the game is over, it's like it's finished. They're not bothered anymore. I used to make the whole day like pissed off for the whole day because I had a bad game or because I lost the game. Yeah. And it's like I'm seeing that they don't give that utmost, although they like winning the game. But if they lose, it's like nothing happened. And I don't know if it's the same thing. Because then in Italy, for example, we take the teams to Italy to play in competitive tournaments. And in Malta, there are no competitive tournaments for children under 13, under 12, under 11. So I was thinking, what is the situation in the USA?
That's a great question, because tournaments here sometimes are taken too seriously. Again, it boils down to parents. It's taken seriously. The bragging rights, the sporting culture here in the US is big. Everyone wants to win. And I think probably that's what stands them out. The winning mentality is big. I've tried to change that within the younger age groups, and that is why the juniors program is fun, because there's no medals involved. But when it comes to tournaments, everyone loves to win their tournament. Everyone loves the bragging rights. Unfortunately, in today's world with social media, everyone loves their photo on social media with a trophy and a medal. And it's funny you're saying that, because here in the US as well, and I was going to get to it later, but I can answer it now. Once a year, we have an open tryout. So basically, any kid from any club can go and train and try out for a new club. And that happens in the first week of June. So any tournaments prior to that, teams want to win because it gives them the opportunity to go and recruit the best kids. Come to my team because I've just won so-and-so tournament. And unfortunately, not all people are smart enough sometimes to realize that, that tournament had the second or third tier teams in it because the top teams are all playing in the MLS division, for example. Like our tournament next week, our top teams are not playing in it because they've just finished off their MLS season, and we have our other top teams going to the the Elite Academy playoffs in Dallas. But winning is a big thing here. It is a big thing. The American kids love it. The parents are on it. You watch an NFL game, for example, and MLPiki, if you know what I mean. They're even between schools. MLPika. Like I said before, I went to a high school NFL football match with 5,000 people. They want to win. It's very, very important that they win. So winning is a big thing. The tournaments of, I'm telling you, 700-800 teams. They come from all over the US sometimes. We get some good. Sometimes scouts do come out to watch the games, but you don't watch, as you know, in tournament soccer, you don't get to watch good games sometimes because they're sacrificing win. So sometimes it's just do anything you can to win instead of trying to play the game the proper way. So tournaments has its benefits from a financial point of view in bringing in a lot of teams, because by bringing in a lot of teams, you're not only hosting the teams to play the tournament, but you're hosting the teams in hotels, which makes you money. But from a soccer point of view, from a football point of view, sometimes you don't get to see the best games because, unfortunately, people who travel especially want to win. So I hope that answered that question.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hey, these are good questions. Keep them coming. I enjoy.
Hi, Coach. Demis Sherry. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Having so many affiliates in there, and having so much different categories, even different sexes, do you as a club impose your system of play or perhaps your style of play? How it goes over there?
Yes, for example, our MLS Next teams and the GA, which is the Girls Academy Leagues. The top teams, we do emphasize on our system of play and style of play. Again, sometimes, I'll give you an example. This year, our U14 boys in MLS had a very tough year. We didn't have the boys we wanted to. So unfortunately, we couldn't really play the way we wanted to play. Example, playing out from the back, trying to play through the thirds. With our other teams, we emphasize as much as we can. The training has become where maybe before in the US, the training was more physical type because they love the physical type of game. Now we're emphasizing more on keeping the ball, on different types of rondos, different types of positional play, where the kids are now seeing the bigger picture, seeing the game. Do we emphasize so much at the younger age groups? No, because obviously I want them to keep enjoying the game. But with the older age groups, there is a style of play. And I know, and we all know for a fact that when these college recruiters and scouts from other clubs do come and watch all the kids play, it's about how can these kids manage that style of play and philosophy of the club. Because it's not just about winning for them. It's about how do we implement it. So yes, answering your question, we do implement the style of play. Unfortunately, we can't do it all the time with certain age groups because some teams do lack the ability of trying to do that. So then we've got to go back down to basics and try to help those kids become the better player. But as much as we can, style of play, and I got that on one of my slides, we try to work on it as much as we can.
Okay.
Hi, Wayne.
Hi.
Mark Marlowe. Nice to meet you. And it's
good to see you.
It's my pleasure. And well done for your great work that you are doing there. I would like, I don't know, maybe you know that at the moment I am on another sports now, on futsal and beach soccer.
Yes.
After 2 years of hectic UEFA Pro license. But anyway, does in US will include futsal and beach soccer as part of the player development program? Because unfortunately, one of the barriers that I face with our clubs in Malta is that they think that that by having these kind of opportunities to our kids, they think that they might lose players from football, although it's the other way. What do you think about it?
I agree. In fact, we do futsal. I can't do beach soccer because I live in the desert. We don't have beach, but we do futsal. We do futsal once a week with our elite teams, 100%. The kids love it. The kids love it. Futsal for us is a place where they can go play some street football. Mark, we don't coach. We let them play. It's not only done within our club, but I know for a fact that all the Albion Nation clubs, the 14 affiliates I spoke to you about, we all implement futsal within our programs, because the amount of
touches,
the amount of touches. For example, we use, I don't know if you've heard of it, we use Playmaker. Playmaker is a gadget we use on the shoes. It gives you touches, left foot, right foot, amount of long balls, short balls, in summer. The amount of touches they get in a futsal session is way more than what we actually do on a field. So these kids are automatically working on not only their technical ability, but they're also working on their decision-making, Mark, which is unfortunately,
decision-making in speed.
In small, tight spaces. In today's world, we don't emphasize enough on letting the kids play to make their own decisions. Us coaches, and I was one of them when I was doing my coaching badges earlier, when I used to do my C, my B, I wanted to involve myself too much as a coach. Where now, I let the kids make their own decisions. And futsal has been fantastic. And then we take that into a game, and simple things like a quick free kick, hand on the ball and play.
Yes.
All we have to tell the kids is, hey, futsal, boom. And they're playing short, sharp spaces.
And also they find their own space to receive ball, you know. So
yes.
but unfortunately, although we are organizing a league for under 16s in Malta, but when I come to discussing with the Swiss clubs, unfortunately some head coaches will find it that they are losing kids. But
I tell you what we did as well, Mark. We unfortunately futsal in the summer we're going to do more of it, but now during the spring and winter, one of our fields on a Friday night, we turn it into 4v4 field spaces. Now the left is small goals. Any kid from the street, sorry, can come and play. I have 5-6 coaches just monitoring no one gets hurt. A good supply of soccer balls, and for 2 hours. And for 2 hours, kids make their own teams. We have bibs, so they can play, and they make their own team.
Yes.
Last Friday, I went to watch. My boys wanted to go and play. My young one, Tom, let's go and watch. I went. Over 100 kids.
Let him play futsal. Maybe he will play with national team in the future.
100%. No, 100%. Over 100 kids within a 2-hour frame of and they make their own, like we call it pick-up our work. Football.
Yeah, but I ask you this question because I'm sure that even in US, and I have some contacts there, they play also beach soccer for kids. Apart from futsal, that is fast growing sport. They do also beach soccer because.
Yeah.
But anyway, I will be in contact with you and we can discuss further because I will leave the floor to others. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions? So, Playing philosophy. We spoke about playing philosophy before. I had a good question about it. We believe that if we embrace in teamwork, obviously, the success will be together. So we emphasize on these little playing philosophies. And this is not just an Albion Las Vegas. This is Albion Nation. A lot of these things, obviously, we spoke about in our courses during the MFA days, and I'm sure they're implemented. But we get together on a regular basis and discuss these things. Like today, after I finish this, I'm going to go and meet my MLS coaches to prepare for next year. I'm fortunate, I'm lucky enough to have ex-Premier League players now living in Vegas who have done coaching badges, now working for our club. One of them is Carl Court, who follows the English Premier League. Carl Court was a Newcastle player in the days, early 2000s. And I've got Chris Riggett, who played for Middlesbrough and Derby County. So these guys are all football, soccer people. And they help me a lot in implementing these within our club. So that's very, very important for us. Philosophy of development. I went through all this. I think, fostering players to find automatic solutions is very important for us. All players deserve a chance to play the game at their best. And I think that's very, very important. And we're lucky here at the club because we have so much kids that each age group is probably 3-4 teams deep. And that is very important for me because if a kid or a boy or a girl cannot make the top team, we always have a home, the second team or the third team. And we call them, obviously, the MLS Academy, Elite Academy, and Premier team. So there's always a pathway for these children to go up and down, which is very, very important for us. This is a very special one for me. And this is big in the US as well. It's beyond the field, beyond what we do as a club at training. And I know a lot of clubs in Malta do similar things. If you look at the two photos down in the bottom of this presentation, we do a lot of charity work within the environment of our community. The community loves it when they see Albion kids helping out. So we're not only teaching our children how to play the game, but also how to be good people. And that is very big within the culture here in the US. Our president of the club is a very successful person when it comes to business. So he's for this. So a holistic development of the human being is very, very important through the sports. So this is something as a club we take very, very seriously. We have a 3-square event where we help distribute food to the poor and the homeless within Las Vegas. We have kids working as referees sometimes in younger age groups or doing courses for refereeing because not everyone is going to play the game later on. We also have kids, the older kids obviously mentoring the younger kids in going to do this. Sometimes we ask them to go and do a training session with the younger kids. We go do fundraising, go sell at a tournament. It helps raise money for your team sometimes as well. So go help set up the tournament, do up the goals, do up the flags, so they're always doing work outside the actual soccer field. So that's very, very important for us as well. So,
Wayne, I have a question. Davor.
Hey, Davor, how are you?
How are you? Nice to see you again, Wayne. I'm really, I say.
I lost you, Davor. I can't hear Davor. I think he's lost his. Have you muted?
He's muted.
He's muted.
Now is it open now? Now open.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, Wayne. I'm really sorry with this thing. I'm really enjoying. I say hello to everyone and really enjoying this talk about the job that we are doing. It's amazing. I have a question. At the matches, the bench players, over there in your club, are you, because you do really many things as socialized, and it's amazing to hear this, helping the kids to become good people and everything. The bench players, are you looking to make them play second halves, or happen that they are not entering and they go unsatisfied back home, or you are looking to play these kids, all of them? Echo, this is my question.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. We are fortunate enough that the MLS and the Girls Academy specifies that kids must play. If they're in your squad, they must play a certain amount of games per year. So at the beginning of each season, you have to educate not only the kid but the parents that being part of this squad is very important, and you will play.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I'm very glad to hear this.
Obviously, for us, it's important as well, especially when you play away. Therefore, traveling to California could cost a lot of money and a lot of time. So bringing a kid, a boy or a girl to California to play, and you leave him on the bench for the whole game, can be a problem. So you have to manage your game time and your substitutions and make sure that the kids play the right time. Now, if the kid is not good enough to play in that top team because he's not going to get enough game time, you have to be honest with the parent and the child. And for that particular weekend, he might have to play in the second team or the third team for them to get game time. So that way, everyone gets to play. It's not easy to communicate with the parents because everyone wants their kid on the top team. And we have lost players because of that. But I found out. Can you mute again? Can you mute your... Thank you. Perfect. But I found out by time that by being honest with these people, you manage to keep the players you want, and you also obviously get more players. So yeah, the league in itself, by default, helps you manage your game time for all your players.
Wayne, thank you very much. Amazing. What I heard, it's amazing, and for me very important, because often we are just looking, the results, and the kid go back home unhappy and even sometimes crying probably back home. He didn't play. Thank you very much, Wayne.
No problem. No problem. Thank you.
Wayne?
Yes.
It's Carlos again.
Yep.
My question is closely related to this one. Let me give you a hypothetical example. You've got an under 15, a very good player. Very good ability, but his stature is still very let's call it underdeveloped.
Good one.
What would you do in that situation? Would you put him in a lower age team where he could suit himself fine given his physical ability, or would you leave him with his under 15s where naturally he might have a big problem of playing because he would not be able to keep up with the demands of the more developed players at the time? We know that kids don't develop at the same rate. How would you go about dealing with that?
So MLS and US soccer now, obviously in the last 2 years, introduced biobending as well. So that's helped us manage those circumstances really well. So we've had examples this year where we've had U14 players, 2 of them in particular, very good technical players, but unfortunately get bullied when we're on the field of play because they're small. So we've played them in the MLS U13 age group this year because of biobending, and the amount of success they got was fantastic. But in training, I'm okay with challenging them with their own age group where they're playing against all the kids. But on game time, they're actually developing more because they're getting more touches. And I used the player maker as an example. I told the coach, one particular weekend, we left this particular boy with his own age group in an MLS game. And in 40-minute half, he touched the ball twice. The next week, I put him in the under 13 age group in a halftime, center midfield player, right? He touched the ball over 20 times. I'm like, wow, see the difference. So having those stats showing me how many times he touched the actual ball, even though with your eye you can see it, help us not only tell, because obviously the parent is like, why is my kid going down an age group? When you show them and explain that to them, that parent today is over the moon, because their kid has not only developed technically now, but he's also developed leadership skills because he's playing with him. We've challenged him and said, you must be the leader of this U13 team. Now, hopefully over the summer, this kid grows and he can go back with the U14 next year, which I have no doubt he will, because his parents are both big. So it's about managing each individual differently, but challenging them in the same way in an environment where maybe you can pull him out in training, for example, and managing him that way. So, for example, we train our MLS teams, U13, U14, on the same day, on the same field, half a field each, for example. So if he's struggling in the early phases of the U14 session, we'll just tell him to jump on the U13 session. So it's communication, it's managing, it's all about how do we manage that individual. But that's a great question, because at first it was hard to communicate it. It wasn't easy. And then you see the kid, why is my kid not playing? He's been on the bench all game. You put him on, and we've played MLS teams, especially Galaxy and LAFC, who've had under 13, 14 players as big as me. I'm talking nearly 6 foot. Unbelievable. So how can we have a poor kid play against him? So yeah, great question. I hope I answered it right.
Hi, Wayne.
Hi.
It's me again. Thank you very much for your good speech. I just want to chip in something a little bit different. Because I coach under 13,
yep.
13 to 16. And I want to know, because there's 2 different type of players you have in the team. Those who know how to kick the ball, those who don't know how to kick the ball. So how can you as a coach combine those two? Because some doesn't know what to do when you tell them to do, and some knows what to do. Is it fair on we the coaches, or is it our job to make them understand what football is?
That's not an easy question, because and it goes back to more free play, I think, about kids having the chance to experiment themselves. And I go back to the MLS program, where through default, because the league was a little bit stronger, certain kids had to identify when, for example, to dribble, when to pass, how to look for spaces. So we as coaches need to we have to lead the right environment. And I think that's where your training environment would come into it. If you've got a kid that loves to dribble, you don't want to limit his dribbling, because sometimes I hear coaches say, you must play only 2 touch, or 1 touch, or 3 touch. But you're taking away the creativity from the boy. And I don't like that. I like to keep the creativity. Can you challenge that kid and tell him that you can only be creative in certain parts of the field, maybe? So he starts looking for spaces. So you as a coach need to be imaginative in how to get the best out of that particular kid. Kids who are scared to get on the ball, for example. Maybe you can't put them in an environment where the game is so big. Maybe you need to put them in a smaller game, in a rondo, where they're getting a lot of success. So they do feel comfortable in playing 1-2 touch on the ball and getting on the ball. So it boils down to us as coaches on how we set our own environments. The one thing for sure here in the US in the beginning was, and I'm happy to say that I've maybe had a little bit of a say where I've implemented that, is what's good for one is good for all, but it doesn't work that way. What's good for one won't be good for all. And this is where us coaches need to manage the environment and where we work and how we deal with these players and making them feel better.
Yes, I get to understand you, but what I'm saying, what I want to what I want to know really is it those who doesn't know how to kick the ball and those who know how to kick the ball. Is it fair on those who know how to kick the ball? Because you have to go back now as a coach to start teaching them the basic.
Yes, but what you're telling me, you've obviously got different you got a big gap in your levels. You got a big gap in your levels.
Yes.
And this is again, it goes back to how do you set up your training environment?
How do you set the training environment? Is it good for those who know how to play the game and those who don't know how to play the game? Because is it fair for them, like the one that is is good? They have the technique. They have things where you tell them to do what the game is. They will do it right for you. And there is certain ones that when you tell them kick the ball this way, they don't know how to kick. They don't know what to do. So I'm just saying, is it fair on those ones?
Well, all I can say through my experience before, because obviously this could be a topic on itself, because this is a very good question where we could all discuss as coaches. But from my own experience, all I can say is that when I've had those different inabilities, is that where I've got to manage my environment and say, okay, this particular training session is these group of players are very good technically. So I've got to group them in a certain group and give them certain exercises. Where this particular group of players, their technical ability are way off. So now I've got to give them a set of exercises or game type related exercises where they are going to be successful, and then build them confidence and slowly bring them closer to the other kids. But it takes time and patience. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. But you've got to manage as a coach. You know your own kids. You've got to manage your own environment and how to do that. And it takes time. It takes planning. It takes time.
Oh, thank you very much.
No problem. Jisoo.
Hello, Wayne.
كيف أهلا?
First of all, regards to your Mrs. and Zek and Tom.
Thank you.
And your father-in-law is very happy, Joe, eh? Winning this collector, eh?
Yeah.
Great job you're doing, Wayne. I want to ask Wayne, do you do any assessments for all the kids during the year?
For all the kids, no. For the top kids, we started them last year. And I'm still working with the tips, to be honest with you, most of the time, what we used to do. We have what we call key qualities within the Albion Nation. In fact, our next meeting in June is all about how we're going to implement them with our kids. Doing assessments for all the kids is impossible because, like I said, there's so many kids at the club. But the one thing I do emphasize with my coaches is that we're continuously assessing these kids in every training session and every game we play. Pulling out a kid to do an assessment during the final stages of the year, just to do an assessment, I feel that the kids are always under pressure. So while we're assessing during their training sessions during the season, I think that's a very good way how to assess these kids. And we're continuously working on the tips, the technique, and that type of frame. So I think that's become a key factor for us. And during this period, and especially the last 2 months, where we know that we need to start recruiting for certain age groups, that's where we go and do our scouting and we start assessing other kids from other clubs and invite them over to train with our teams, because that gives them the opportunity not only to assess the kid in our environment, because it's pointless of me assessing him individually. I need to see how he works within our environment, but it also gives the kid the chance, and the parents the chance, to see if they like our environment and if he's comfortable within our environment. So I think that's, for us, has worked and been successful over the last 2-3 years, where we've gone out and identified kids that we would like at our club. We've invited them over for a week or two to train with our boys and girls, and then made an assessment through that.
Thank you, Wayne. God bless you and your family.
Thank you. Okay, so like I said, we can talk. I'm just going to breeze through these long-term development, and I want to get to something really. And we spoke about our Albion Juniors program. Just a brief description on what we do during this program. It's about 1,000 kids. Our task is to get over 3,000, if possible, within over 5 or 6 different locations in Nevada. We have a technical director for this. Oscar. He's been absolutely fantastic. This program, as you can see through the photos, the kids all wear the Albion uniform, red or blue. They play against each other. It's fun. There's balloons. There's coffee stands. No refereeing, no coaching, and it's absolutely fantastic. And we get the parents involved. And it's not only it's getting the neighborhood together, but it's also getting the parents involved and them starting to blend the club culture within the juniors program. So for us, this has become a very big and important part of what we're doing at Albion. Another part, let me go back. Another big part for us at Albion is the fundraising programs. This helps a lot of families, and this has become very big in the US, where, like I said before, travel is very expensive. So we allow people within the club to work at these events that the club will help them with. And whatever money they make goes to their players. So it pays for their travel, it pays for the club's fees, it pays for anything that needs to be done through the club. And the biggest thing we got out of this program, and the biggest satisfaction we get out of this program, is that parents from all our teams get together and really built a very good club culture. So the fundraising program is not only helping the families make money, but it's also making them feel welcome within our club. To run all this, you need people. So as you can imagine, our club, we have 2 technical directors, one for the boys, which is myself, and one for the girls, which is Amanda Schmutz. Amanda's a very well-respected person, coach in the US, lots of college experience. Me and her are talking on a daily basis because we practically run all the football/soccer programs. And then we have director of youth. We have one for the boys, one for the girls. We also have a director for juniors. We have a director for fundraising programs. We have a director of operations. So as you can imagine, the club is not just about 1 or 2 people, but a bunch of people getting together and discussing all these ideas together. Amanda and myself are always involved in these, even when it comes to fundraising and sponsorships, because I like to know what's happening within the club. So if any parent does ask questions, I know how to answer. So that's been very important. Another big thing in the US is scholarships. And this is one of my final ones. Scholarships there's a lot of people that can't afford travel. There's a lot of people that can't afford club dues. Soccer/football in America is not cheap. It's true, unless you go to a top academy and everything is paid for. So we do offer scholarships within our kids. Obviously, the parents have to produce an X amount of financial information towards the club, and then we go accordingly. If they fit the criteria, we can offer scholarships. As you can see, in 2019, 2020, we gave 43 kids. Doesn't sound much out of 700, but 43 scholarships for a whole season was important. So we have an X amount of scholarships for boys and girls, and that's part of the American culture, the way it works as well. So it's very, very important. That's Albion and soccer in general in the US. I don't know if there's any other random questions I would love to communicate. I think discussing.
I would like, if we have time. Alex, again, at the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that your wife didn't like the fact that you decide to take that step going abroad. And obviously, I'm coming from another country also. And I was wondering, what about comfort zone for the coaches and for the kids as well? How do you find it in US comparing to Malta?
Getting out of the comfort zone was always something. I left Australia at 19 to come to Malta. So I left a big country, came to Malta. I spent 25 years in Malta. I played in Malta. I coached in Malta. So I got out of my comfort zone when I was 19. Bringing my wife, who's born and raised in Malta, and my kids were born and raised in Malta, to a big country, was obviously a massive culture shock for them. But they love it here now. We love it so much that, you know, we bought a house, we're settled here, they go to school here, and they made a life out of it. It's getting out of your comfort zone is not easy in the beginning for nobody, but once you make that step and you're fully committed and focused on what you want to do, and I was committed and focused, we made it work. And it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge, especially for my youngest son, who at first going to a new school, meeting new kids. You go to a school here, you got 3,000 students. You go to a school in Malta, you've got, I don't know, 200 students. So it was a massive culture shock for my kids, but we made it work. It was thankfully to a lot of people that helped.
Dik ir-risposta, jien ndaħlek fis-setup żgur għax naf x'inti. Tal-coaches, head coach. Għax mejlu hemm head coach.
Would you consider coming back?
Konsifirt miegħu l-Italja.
I think we have someone who's not muted and having a private conversation.
Should be okay now.
There was a question. Tell me. There was another question?
Would you consider coming back?
Not yet. No. I still want to explore the US. I want to explore I'm ambitious, so not yet. I was there in Christmas just to come visit family. So no, not yet. Maybe in the future, who knows? Malta will always be my home. Malta will always be my home.
Yeah, Wayne. Hello, Wayne.
Hi.
Yeah, if we can go back to your first presentation of the Albion soccer club in America. Do you all play the same do you all go on through the same philosophy, all the teams?
So good question. Yes, we all, this is what I say, we always meet as technical directors on a monthly basis where we all implement the same philosophies.
Okay.
But obviously within the different states, because we have different environments, we also have to adjust accordingly, which is obviously a great thing working with Albion Nation, because we all understand, for example, the player pool in California is way bigger than what the player pool is in Nevada. California is a massive state. So we all have to adjust accordingly to the way we do things. But the majority of the philosophies, the way we work, even simple things of we all have the same uniform. We all work in the same way, if possible, yes. Same coach education system. So as much as we can, we work in the same way.
And the body training and everything.
Again, the training, most of it is, it's impossible to do every training session the same, but when it comes to, it's all about principles, not the actual session. We all believe in the same. We all believe in the same principles. We all believe in the same way of we want to teach methodology. So we try and keep everything in the same way. But the principles are fundamental for us, yes, as Albion.
Thank you.
And it's very simple. I'll tell you why. Because if some of the Albion Las Vegas kids want to go and play for another Albion, they need to know the same principles.
All right.
And the same as coaching. I'm going to coach in San Diego in June with another Albion set of boys. I need to talk the same language. Otherwise, these boys won't know. So the principles are fundamental for us.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So that's the end of my slideshow. How do I come back?
Just click on share. Stop sharing.
Stop sharing screen.
May I ask one more question, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, it's Roberto. You are involved in youth soccer. If you had to compare it to a senior team, managing a senior team and your role now, not as a head coach, maybe as a youth soccer, what would motivate you to stay where you are? Is it a financial reward or I don't know, the finance for it? I know it's not, because I'm not thinking of teaching adults just for that reason, senior team. But my question is, you get intrinsic an intrinsic reward in teaching youth, but they treat it as though you're a senior coach. So is there a gap? Is there a gap over there between the two? Because here there is.
No, there is a gap, and I've been fortunate enough to do everything. I've been fortunate enough to work in a senior team when I was at Luxor and at Ormi, and I've been fortunate enough to work at international level with the MFA U19s, and I've been fortunate enough to work at a very young level when I started my coaching badges when I was at Slimmer, under 5, under 6. So coming here and working with the youth was something. At first, being an ambitious coach, and I think most of you guys are, you always want to work at first team. I think everyone says, I want to go first team. I want to go first team. First team has its rewards, but it has its negatives. And I think the biggest negative you have in the first team is that it's so results orientated that you lose 2 or 3 games, you're out of a job. And that's the fact of today's world. And I'm seeing it in the MLS. I have a lot of contacts with a lot of MLS clubs, and I speak to a lot of first team coaches and a lot of technical directors. And people ask me, do you want to get back into first team? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Do I have problems with parents? 100%. We all do. Do we do everything perfect? No, far from it. Are we learning every day? Yes. And then I love it. So the fact that I'm learning every day from people, from parents, and feeling that I'm making a difference within the community and helping these kids become not only better soccer players, but better people, makes me feel good. Now, in 5 years' time, I might turn around and say, you know what? I want to have another crack at first team football. I might, because I never say never. But at this present time in my life and in my stage as a coach, I'm enjoying the fact that I'm working with youth and I'm helping them develop. And like I said, not only becoming better people, better soccer players, but better people. And that for me is important. The biggest satisfaction for us as youth coaches is seeing your players play in the first team. And I think all these coaches here know what I'm talking about. When I see that 97, 98, 99 group now playing, I watched the FA Trophy the other day and I'm seeing kids from NSS play, and because I've got Maltese television here as well, so I'm keeping up to date. So that for me is a satisfaction that I had a little bit of the chance of helping them develop, become better players. I'm still in touch with people like Matthew Goulamir on a regular basis, and and those guys. So I'm trying to do the same here. And that is the philosophy I'm trying to implement with our coaches. It's not, if you're in it for the money, you're in the wrong business. 100%. Because the amount of hours we put on the fields, behind the scenes, with parents, meetings, you're never going to make that money up. Arguments with the wife because you're always out of home. We all know it. We've all been through it. And here it's even more. I'm telling you, to travel to a training session, sometimes it takes me an hour and a half. Because we've got distances. I go to California sometimes on a Friday, play the games on a Saturday. We have 2 age groups playing, or 3 age groups, and I travel back Saturday night. I'm talking 5-hour car. So there's a lot of travel and a lot of commitment. But you know what? The passion keeps me going every morning. I wake up every morning saying, I want to see who am I going to make better today. And that for me is fundamental as a youth coach.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question, please?
Any other questions before?
Yes, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, with regards to the competitive ages, meaning under 15 upwards, can you list the number of coaching staff involved in every age category, please? And the second question, is there a link between the senior team football and all the other academic ages, like a unique system, a unique style of play? Or everyone can use different styles and different systems? Thank you.
So, coaches, I'm going to talk in general from our club, and then obviously there's the difference when you go to the top MLS clubs. So, for example, us, our MLS core group, you have your 3 coaches, 1 head coach per team. We have a goalkeeping coach that works with the 3 teams. We have a physical preparator who works then with those 3 teams plus our other 3 elite academy boys teams. And then each head coach would assist the coach that's above him. So the U13 coach would assist the U14 coach, the U14 coach would assist the U15 coach, and the U15 coach would assist the U16 coach. And that way, we get to work together. One thing I experimented with last season was once, I think it was every 3 months, I would change the coaches around. I just wanted to experiment. I'd put the U13 coach head of U14, U14 head of U15. And funnily enough, the kids loved it because they got to know the coaches better. They got a different voice. Only for a week, we experimented a bit, and it was fun. It was fun. So that was good. But then if you go to a top academy, like I was at Houston Dynamos about a month ago, each age group has its own coaching staff. So the U15 has its head coach, assistant coach, goalkeeping coach, physical preparator would do 2 age groups in that case, and analyst as well at the MLS. The analyst would do 2 or 3 age groups. So depending on which environment you're at. The second question, do we work hand in hand with the first team? Us in Las Vegas, I don't have a first team. Obviously, our first team is in San Diego. We communicate with their head coach a lot. Ziggy, he's a great guy. We try to communicate with him as much as we can because if he does look at any of our players, again, it goes back to the principles. What type of principles is he working with so we can implement those principles? The good thing we have in Albion is that our CEO of the whole Albion project, Noah Jins, who's English, employs a first-team coach according to the principles of Albion in general. He would not go out there and employ a first-team coach just for the sake of having a first-team coach who wants to go and play, I don't know, long balls from the back when we're trying to teach the kids to play out from the back. He would not implement a first-team coach who specifically says, no, I'm always going to play with 5 at the back when we're implementing with 4 at the back. So the principles from the first-team coach run down to us all the time. Obviously, at the bigger academies, I don't know how they all work, but again, I'm going to talk to you about Houston. They are fun. They implement how their first team play 100% because their number 1 aim at the academy is how many first team homegrown players can we put through our academy system into the first team? Because at the end of the day, that means money for them. If they can sell a player, like Pulisic was sold to Chelsea a couple of years back from Dortmund for 58 million. His grassroots club back in Kansas, got a little percentage of that. So at the end of the day, there's money involved if you bring up the youth in the right way. 58 million is a lot of money.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Hi, it's Renald here. First of all, props for the job that you are doing. Regarding game analysis, besides the training sessions that obviously the boys and the girls attend to, do you offer any particular game analysis or training analysis to your youths?
Well, that's another good question. It started this season, to be honest with you. We were very slow in doing that process. The girls started we use Vio cameras. So we try to, because it's been easier to manage, it's easier to clip, it's easier to download the games. And yes, we have started where we do the game analysis as much as we can. The girls' academy are one step ahead of the boys, to be honest with you, because they started using Instat. Instat breaks down the game, goes to the coaches within 48 hours. So then we've got coaches who go out with their little iPads on training days and discuss moments or individual moments with players, which then they replicate in their training session. So are we progressing in that area? Yes. Is it something I want to get someone full-time on at the club? 100%, but obviously depending on budget. But obviously then the academy system, the proper, they all have their game analysis, and on a Monday morning, they would have the kids in the classroom, the full-time players who are on scholarships, going through the game analysis. So it's something we need to improve on, but we're working on it as much as we can. But I'm going to go back a little bit. I don't want to implement it too early, because I'm a great believer that I can't show kids too much, because I need to show them, I need them, like I'll go back before. If I'm showing a U13, U14 boy too much video, I think we need to let them play a little bit more. That's my belief. I think the analysts, more game detail might come in a little bit older, when they're at least U16, 17. That's my idea.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions before we leave?
Hi, Wayne. Just a quick question. I wanted to ask, when you get to sort of under 17, under 18 level, is it more normal for example, a good player gets a sort of opportunity to go pro, and he also has the opportunity to go to college? Is it something that a player would choose the college level rather than, for example, the NASL level or the USL Pro level or something like that? Or, because I imagine MLS would be his first pick, but would he pick college over a second tier or third tier professional setup?
100%. 100%. College in America is expensive. You're talking about $60,000, $70,000 a year just to go to college in America. So if you can get a scholarship to go and get an education plus play, it's a fantastic opportunity. And then you've got to remember, after your 4 years of college, whatever you're going to get a degree. You're going to get, the college game is big because the enthusiasm is fantastic, and you're also going to get you're going to automatically go into the MLS draft after 4 years. So the MLS scouts are going to look at you immediately. Then at 21, 22, if you don't make that, you can always go back to USL, which is the second tier, and make some decent money. Because I know some USL players that make some decent money out here, even coaches. So the college pathway, if you don't go straight to MLS or Europe, the college pathway is a big thing. And obviously the colleges then have their divisions. You've got Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, depending on what college. And I'm still learning the college pathway, to be honest with you. I'm trying to contact as much as I can with college coaches, because it's a different ball game completely, how they recruit, what they can do during the season, how they train. But it's a very interesting pathway, the college pathway. But yes, okay. They would go through the college pathway, a lot of the kids.
Okay, and just a quick question, like following your experience, like here in America, how do you think we can improve the setup in Malta? Like, I'm sure you've seen some things that you might want to change, and I'd like to get your insight on that.
Like I said, every club, I think a lot of clubs in Malta have done fantastically well in trying to be as professional as possible. It's not all rosy in the US, trust me. There are obstacles as well. Like I said, one of the major obstacles we have here is that we've got so much. Das Kemal Kobor, it's so big that even the traveling in itself within the club is a headache. Trying to get from one part of Vegas to the other part of Vegas at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, trying to get to some training sessions is a problem. So I think the mentality part of it is fundamental. Sometimes in Malta, sometimes we are more. Where here, it's more, the people are more into it. They want to make sure that things are done properly. I'm not saying there aren't coaches or people that don't think, I'm just here for the wages. But the mentality, especially within the parents and the kids, they love sport. They love sport. Sport is number one. So it's mentality.
Okay.
I think I have Martin who wants a question.
Hi, Wayne. Nice
Hi,
to see you again.
Same here.
What are the durations of the training sessions of all ages? Wayne, how do you cope with all these kind of kids coming together?
That's a great question, because obviously apart from that, it's the heat as well, Martin. Our summer, it already is 36 degrees during the day here. We get up to 40, we get up to 47, 48.
Yeah.
In about two months' time, it could be up to 47 degrees. It's 120 degrees. So obviously, with the younger age groups, it's a smaller duration, anything between 45 minutes to an hour sometimes. And then obviously with the older age groups, you still get your hour and a half. Logistically, it's not easy to manage the fields.
Yeah.
How to manage space, how to manage the time, how to manage, like we have training. A coach would have, it's impossible to have a coach for every training, for every age group. And it happens in Malta. You have coaches, I've got coaches who work 2 age groups at a time in a year. So if possible, if logistically, I need to have if he's coaching the U13, U14 back to back. So he finishes one age group and then the other age group comes in. So it's a headache logistically.
Are they full-time, the coaches? Wait, are they full-time, the coaches, or just
my MLS coaches are full-time. Carl Court, myself, we've got about 7 or 8 coaches. No more, what am I saying? With the girls and all, I think we've got over about 12 coaches who are full-time at our club. On the boys' side alone, I've got 18, 19, 20. I've got about 21 coaches just on the boys' side who I have to manage. I've got 7 or 8 of them who are full-time. Like we meet, like today, we're meeting in another 2 hours just to organize the next year's MLS program. So yeah, we have full-time coaches because there are kids who do homeschooling. So in the morning, if they don't have class, we'll organize training sessions with our coaches. So yeah, we'll do that. No problem.
Now, this is the, do you think can be implemented as a national improvement with our Maltese culture? This type of system.
I think
we have individual clubs. But
the problem is, Martin, unless, and we've said this on a number of times in Malta, and sometimes it's like we're talking to a brick wall, unless you all sit down. We do it on a Zoom and we get together. Now, it's not easy because we've got, come on, 400 million in America.
Yeah.
If you can sit down around a table and all have the same pathway, but unfortunately, sometimes we think for our different roads. So that question can be thrown all the time.
No, because we get seminars, we get courses, we get a lot of information. But then sometimes we find it difficult to implement what we believe. But you cannot implement everything on your own. It has to be. That's why I'm saying that it can be implemented, this structure as you are doing, because sometimes I get lost.
And like,
I've
learned
and
something
the
in
objective
life.
it's not always there.
I've learned something in life, and it's taught me a lot. And we could probably end up on this because we could speak all day. You can never do anything on your own.
Yes, that's it.
During my pro, we had to do the thesis, which obviously, if you say it like Marlowe, it drives us crazy. And I decided to do the management, and I picked on Alex Ferguson. Alex Ferguson, why was he so successful over a 26-year period at Man United? And it became simple. He got better people to work around him to make his program successful. So when I came in here and I wanted to build a project, I said, I need to get people who are better than me in certain aspects around me to make me better and to make the club better. I'm humble enough, and we have to be humble. And I don't care. I don't have to go out there and say, Wayne got this, Wayne got that. No, far from it. It's collective. And I keep telling my coaches, and I praise them to death because they don't stop working. So being humble and working together is fundamental, and being able to acknowledge that, you know what, I'm not good at analyzing stuff like computers and modern technology. I need to employ someone who's better than me. I'm not good at getting sponsorships, so we have to have a marketing manager who's better than me. I'm not good at insomma. You need people around you and you've got to be humble enough as a leader to say, you know what, that's a good idea, man. Quick story. When I was coach of the U19 national team, my physio at halftime pulled me aside. He said, Coach, right at Loba. As I was walking in, my assistant coach at the time was Chalil Eats. That's a good point. We learned from our physio at the time. Fantastic.
Thanks, Wayne.
No problem.
Well
No
done.
problem. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Herman. I think we've come to the end, almost. If there, like, we could stay here forever asking questions and answering questions, and I love to do that. Feel free. Feel free to ask anyone to contact me anytime by email if they want.
Oh, Coach, can I ask a quick question?
Very much.
Okay, I've got one more quick question. Go ahead. Tell me.
Very interesting. What strikes me the most here is the time, the dedication of players, that you can just call players in for the sessions, like you mentioned regarding the analysis. So if there is a game being analyzed and you see something that can be replicated, and when players they don't have lessons, you can just call them in and have a session with them. We find that this, obviously you are very much aware of this in Malta, that time is very, very limited here, where you have kids, they have their other activities, engagement, school and private lessons and things like that. So my question is, how much time do this, the academic stage, how much time a day do they put into session practice and getting things done in the proper manner? Thank you.
Can you mute?
Yes. Sorry for that.
Okay, so time is a problem for everyone. We all have 24 hours in a day, and there's only so much you can do in 24 hours. We have students here. The benefits we have in the US is that the kids, even at school, are involved in sports all the time. So sports in school is a very important factor. Making time as a coach, it isn't easy, because obviously we've got to remember as well that we are dealing with kids, and sometimes we overemphasize on certain things that we shouldn't. So trying to make that time is very important, but you have to implement it within the session. Like I mentioned before, sometimes we have coaches who go out with an iPad on the training field, pull 2 or 3 players over to the side, and just go through moments of a game. You don't have to spend a whole hour in a classroom to show kids, especially now kids, because they lose their attention span so quickly. You can't spend so much time on analyzing stuff, because they won't want to sit down and watch it. So again, it goes back, and I've re-emphasized on this, is how you manage that time. And I do understand that kids have to be kids. Unfortunately, in Malta, I think we send them to too much private lessons and too much this and too much that, where here kids are like I live in a neighborhood during the day where kids are always riding their bikes in the streets. It feels so good to see kids riding a bike in the street. So kids being kids is very, very important for me. It's very important. Herman, we're good, I think.
Thank you very much, Wayne. It was a pleasure having you on board for this first online session. Thank you all for keeping up with us. As we told you, this is the first of a series of 3 that we are organizing during these last 2 weeks of the season, basically. We would really like to have your feedback about them. I know they're not perfect yet, but we try to organize good ones in the near future. So if you have any suggestions, any questions to Wayne, just forward them to me, and I'll forward them to him as well, and we can try to help out as much as possible. If you have any feedback on topics that you are interested in, feel free to send them to us. We'll make sure that in the next season we'll come up with them. So thanks, Wayne. Thank you very much, and keep up the good work you're doing.
Thank you all, and let's keep pushing that Maltese football forward. That's the whole idea. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.